No fiat currency survives, without exception. So if you believe the dollar will last forever, eventually you will be proven wrong. Spain, Netherlands, France, Britain, and the US have at one point in time during the last 5 centuries held the dominant currency, the currency used for trade as a global medium of exchange. The US dollar rose up after World War II, a currency convertible to gold. The dollar became king dollar. In 1971, the US announced a temporary pause to backing its currency with gold and went to a currency backed by the US government. Today, the world, for the first time, uses a medium of exchange that is purely faith-based with no intrinsic value. Headlines around the world are proving that the dollar is likely nearing its end. King dollar is shrinking as a percentage of the world's currency supply. China, Russia, Brazil, and India are coming out with new arrangements almost every week, announcing direct trade in their home currencies. More and more countries are willing to use other currencies to do business. As a percentage of the world's money supply, the US has plunged from 90% in 1952 down to just 15% today. The road to complete destruction is pretty simple to understand. By having the world reserve currency, the US is allowed to print money to service its debts. But what happens when interest rates rise and the US is spending 40 to 50% of its income just to service the interest on our previous borrowing? You can see why the Fed will say and do anything to keep interest rates low. Bernanke recently said that he doesn't see interest rates reaching normal levels, which is about 6%, again in his lifetime. That's pretty significant. Bernanke is only 61 years old. So what he is basically saying is that interest rates will remain low until the 2030 to early 2040s, at least if everything works out like the Fed and the US government need them to. The reality is, in Bernanke's lifetime, the US will lose its reserve currency status, either to another country, group of nations, or after a major reset of the global monetary system. The black swans, of course, are everywhere, from the US backing its currency with oil to a major war breaking out. So to be clear, a dollar collapse will not be black and white. The full outcome and how it will play out is impossible to predict at this point. A dollar collapse is also impossible to time, which is why I think you should be prepared for it now so that when it does happen, it doesn't catch you by surprise. Here are some prudent actions you can take to prepare for the dollar collapse. Own some physical hard assets like precious metals. Become a landlord, owning my favorite cash flowing hard asset, real estate. Pay off your home and become completely debt-free. Stick with owning the best businesses in the world. Diversify your cash holdings. Avoid the 1980s portfolio model. This is one that's mixed with mutual funds, bonds, and some fixed dollar-denominated investments. Prepare your household for the possibility of civil unrest. There is certainly no reason to dwell on this or become obsessed with it because we are literally talking about a global event that will change the entire monetary system. 66 countries, according to the IMF, have either adopted the dollar as legal tender, pegged their currency to it, or managed their exchange rate against it. This is 33% of nations of the world, all submitting their currency sovereignty to the US Federal Reserve. When the dollar does collapse, this will be a day that will be remembered for centuries. For questions regarding any of our articles or videos, please send an email directly to me at daniel@futuremoneytrends.com. Have a blessed week.